Maple Hayes BBC School News Report with me, Emma, and
me, Jordan. In today's programme we have reports on the condition of Abnalls Lane, the lane that leads to our school. We hear from road users including taxi drivers and members of Litchfield Cycling Club.
Also in today's programme we investigate the links between our school at one end of Abnalls Lane and one of the old county asylums at the other end of the lane.
Abnalls Lane is a national cycle route. Now over to Rowan, who is interviewing Joel, a member of Litchfield Cycle Club, who used the route in their training.
What is the main problem in the lanes?
Massive potholes, and then you've got like so many together, you can just easily flip you off your bike.
Does it completely ruin your experience?
A bit, yeah.
We contacted Staffordshire County Council about the conditions of Abnalls Lane. They issued the following statement. Keeping our roads safe is one of our top priorities, and Staffordshire is now the top county in England for road safety. The highways team still receives thousands of calls each week reporting defects and varying severities, ranging from potholes to flooding issues, and we have a team of trained highway inspectors who access each road accordingly. Reactive maintenance work, which is aimed to keep the road safe by addressing safety defects, is primarily identified by a comprehensive system of highway inspectors.
Over the last few winters have accelerated the deterioration of the roads nationally, with the total number of highway defects continuing to rise.
Our school is situated off Abnalls Lane, which links Litchfield and Burntwood. School is at one end, at the other was situated.
Hello, I'm Jodie.
And I'm Liam.
And this is the site of Burntwood Asylum, also known as St Matthew's Hospital. It opened on the 20th of December 1864 with 122 patients. All the patients had to work when they were in St Matthew's as part of their treatment. Once an inmate, it was for life, even after. As St Matthew's also had its own graveyard, which was used up until the 1950s and has 3,103 graves.
Doctors used the inmates as part of their research to experiment on them to see why they had mental health problems. During the Second World War, the asylum was used for soldiers and others who were wounded.
Next, it was used for nurses to train and was taken over by the NHS. A film was made about Florence Nightingale in Lady with the Lamp in 1951, and the lead actress visited the hospital and gave them a gift of the lamp which she used in the film, which they kept on show.
In 1995, St Matthew's closed down when the government thought it was better for people with mental health problems to be cared for in the community and not locked away. The hospital was knocked down and 400 new houses were built in its place. Only the social club, chapel, administration block were left standing along with some trees. The chapel is now the headquarters of Busy Bee's nursery.
My mum told me when she was a child, local people called it the Nut House. And children used to taunt each other in the playground by saying, "You'll be sent to Burntwood and the people in the white coats will come take you away." My mum had a friend who trained here when they were training to be nurses, and my dad's friend's brother was a patient here before it closed down.
Many stories about the hospital are devastating. The hospital had over 1,000 patients at a time, and people were cramped into long lines of beds. In 1868, the East Wing, which contained the female ward, was extended with 30 new beds added to the complex.
People were sent there for strange reasons, such as feeling sad after a baby. One lady was sent here over 60 years. She didn't have any mental health problems or even ill. She was just sent here for being naughty as a child.
I go to school in Lichfield called Maple Hayes, which is an 18th century manor house, which before it was a school was owned by the Worthington Bruin family. They donated a clock which was installed in the tower of the administration building, which was proudly kept and remained to this day.
We go over to Sunny, who interviewed Mrs. Kay, a former employee at St. Matthew's.
How did you end up working at St. Matthew's Hospital?
I met up with a friend it was 1985. My children were all at school, so I was at a bit of a loss for my job. So I thought, I need a bit of a job change, and I met up with this friend who works at St. Matthew's.
Oh.
And she says there was some vacancies going at the school, and would I like to go and train there as a HCA, which is a healthcare assistant. So I said, oh yeah, that'll be fine. So I went for an interview, got into the school, and that's how it started.
Oh good, yeah. What were the conditions like inside?
Well, inside it was quite old and run down at first. This was in 1985, they were a bit short of money.
Yeah.
But what it consisted of was two main buildings with a great big long red corridor going down the middle, which was a bit spooky and eerie. And as you went off from it, different sections of the corridor, it led you to different wards. And then after those two main buildings, there were some other outside buildings on big ground, and that was called the Hutments, and that's where we looked after the elderly part of the patient section. And they had dementia or were disabled in some way or another. So they were separate from the actual main building. But through the middle of the main building was a big clock tower that was donated by a family who actually built Maple Hayes. I think, did you find out about that?
Yeah, I think we found out about that before.
Yes, yeah. So when you were in the centre of the building, you knew you were there because of the clock tower, and then everything went off from that centre building there.
Fantastic. What were the patients like?
They were a mixed bunch. There was some very sad and depressed, and there's lots of different depression. There's some depression from something that went on in their life, like a death in the family, or ill-treated in some way, or they have bad memories of other things that went on in life. And then there's a clinical depression where your body's made up of different chemicals, and if they're mismatched or we haven't got enough of a certain chemical to keep us going, it can cause a depression. But drugs nowadays enable you to even that out, and you're able to cope with your life as long as you take the drugs. So there's lots of different types of depression, hell of a lot, and some people were, at the time when I was there, they used to think that they were depressed, and sometimes it was just that they had learning difficulties and things like that. But that wasn't recognised at the time. But as time went on, it got better, and a lot of people were understood more, so that was a good thing. Then we had acute patients, and they were people like schizophrenics. Now, people seem to think schizophrenics have two personalities, but it's not always the case. With a schizophrenic, you can get up one day, fine, nice day ahead of them, and doing well at work or whatever, and then something tells them that they're not there anymore, there's something else going on with them. And that's what happens, they hear voices or they see things that kick something off, start to feel, and that's a schizophrenic. Your mind's in a bit of a turmoil, and you don't know what's reality and what is this schizophrenia that's going on. Again, nowadays it's controlled with drugs, and people lead a good life, and we've had people that have chaired businesses and directors, we've had bus drivers, we've had all sorts of walks of life that have gone out, back on the community and are as right as rain.
Did you help anyone escape, or have you got any stories about people that tried to escape?
Right, yes, I've got a few stories, but first of all, the staff would never allow themselves to let somebody escape, even though you thought, well, perhaps they shouldn't be here, but it was against the law to let somebody escape as such. But bearing in mind, as the later years went on, the hospital was more open, so they were never locked away, except for on the acute wards where we had keys and things, and we had to lock up different wards. But it became a policy not to lock anybody away. So they could come and go as they pleased. And what was the bugbear while I was there was a number 60 bus that used to use the grounds as a terminus, and some of the patients used to get on the bus and go for a jolly in Lichfield and things, and we used to have to go searching for them there.
Do you think any of the methods they used were successful?
We used to have ECT, which was electrical impulses at the centre of the brain. That was a clinic twice a week, and we used to have outpatients as well as inpatients. And these impulses used to wake up certain parts of your brain that was dormant, that wasn't working anymore. And it wasn't a very good experience for the person involved or for you being there, because they'd come in, wait in a normal waiting room just like the doctors, and have an appointment, be called into a ward of about, I should say about 10 beds, and they'd lie on this bed and have an anaesthetic given to them. Then the bed would be wheeled into a surgery, a clinic, where they'd have the electric impulses sent to the brain. But you can imagine if you have an electric shock, your body's going to go into convulsions, and that's what happened. They used to have the electric shocks to the brain, and then have all these convulsions, and then take about an hour back on the ward again to sleep it off. But the only outside effects of that was they used to get a headache, and they used to get bad dreams. And we used to have a man that used to come in regular that was a coach driver, and he used to travel abroad and things on long distances, and he had some problems. So he started having electric treatments. And while he was asleep, he used to be driving his coach, so he could change his gears in his sleep and actually making the noise of the coach, like, and he was actually driving a coach somewhere while he was asleep. But he did really well, and he was successful. So most people, it was successful.
Myself and Sachin spoke to Kate Gomez, a local historian and author of Lichfield Law website. Abnalls Lane.
Yeah, I love Abnalls Lane. It's one of my favourite places because I don't know if you know what a Holloway is. No. It's a road basically that's been carved out over the centuries by people walking from A to B. And if you ever go down it, you'll notice that it's in a sandstone kind of gorge, so you end up sort of below the level of the land. And I like the fact that it's on the Burntwood-Lichfield boundary, and there used to be a cross somewhere marking the boundary. I also think it's really interesting that there's that moated site. I don't know if you've ever seen that. You can see it better on Google Maps than you can actually in real life. If you go past it, you wouldn't really know it's there, but it's supposed to be the site of a medieval manor house from the 13th century, and it's a scheduled heritage monument, but as far as I know, nobody's ever excavated it, so there might be all kinds of interesting things under there.
Are there any interesting facts about Abnalls Lane?
I think one of the things that I'd really like to find out more about is that Erasmus Darwin, who's got a house just outside the close, he established a botanic garden here, and it was at the site of what was already a bath and a bathhouse called St Chad's Bath that somebody had built, because there's a well called Unit's Well, and it's supposed to be the coldest water in Lichfield, even colder than St Chad's Well, and also it's supposed to never run dry, but I've never actually been able to find where it was. But I think, and also there was supposed to be the remains of the bathhouse still within the school grounds actually somewhere, so I think perhaps you lot should investigate that.
Was there any other asylums in Lichfield?
Yeah, there was. There was one that started life on St John Street, and it was a mixture between private patients and paupers. But but it had a really bad reputation eventually and it got closed down. And so they moved it to in between here and Wall, Fossway Lane. And the house is still there, actually, it's called Sandfields. But again, it was not a very nice place at all, really. When the people went to inspect it, they found that people were being kept in really awful conditions, that they weren't clothed adequately, that they were kept outside in cold, damp buildings. So, yeah, that got closed down as well. And then I think they established the county asylum at Burntwood and also Stafford. And I think the one at Burntwood was established because Stafford just run out of space, so they needed another one. And then they built another one, another county asylum, also actually 3 county asylums in Staffordshire in the end.
Is there any good ghost stories about Abnalls Lane?
There is a ghost story. I don't know if it's a good one, but there was a chap called J.W. Jackson who used to write for the Lichfield Mercury in the 1930s and 40s, and he had this column, he'd put all sorts of bits, a bit like my blog really, but like a predecessor of it, and he'd put all sorts of things in it. Anyway, he found out that the people had been saying, walking down the lane from Burntwood to Lichfield, that they'd seen a ghost. So he decided he was going to go and investigate it. So he went at midnight, because obviously that's the time of day that ghosts come out, if you believe in that sort of thing. And he laid in wait for this ghost to appear, and he didn't see anything. But what he thought it was, that people had been getting mixed up with, was that somebody had got their washing hanging on a line. And so a nightgown was blowing in the breeze, so he thought that people might have, with the spookiness in the dark, maybe mistaken that for a ghost. But there are stories about, like, say, Lemonsley, which is sort of just down from here. Somebody who grew up there did tell me there was a lady of Lemonsley who wandered around, actually in a nightdress, maybe it's linked, looking a bit sad and upset, so you never know.
This has been Maple Hay School reporting for BBC School Reports.